Grandmaster Sasikiran Krishnan has kept his chances alive after he defeated Eleanor Pavel in the 9th round of the FIDE Grand Swiss. It's very difficult to come up with a new concept or a novelty in an opening like Berlin, which has been thoroughly investigated by so many theoreticians. In this position, after King e8 in the Berlin, White played f3, and this is what I call the novelty because it's not been played before. Knight e2 was tried by MVL against Wesley So last year, but Grandmaster Sasikiran played f3 here, and the point is that he wants to play g4 next. After f3, as an afterthought, I think black should have probably played bishop e6, idea bishop c4, since the even square is taken by the bishop. And if white plays something like b3, then to go bishop f5, and once the pawn is supported, black can play rook d8. So I feel that this could have been an interesting option for black because black has to exchange pieces, I feel. But that is what Eleanor was not able to do in this game thanks to very smart maneuvering of Sasikiran. After f3, bishop e7, he first played g4, and after a5, he played b3, which made it very difficult for black to crack easily on the queen side. And after bishop e6, you see every move that Grandmaster Sasikiran plays here is improving the position a little by little. He played king g2, and now this knight is rerouted to a great square after knight e2, a4, knight f4, and then after ab, rook a2, he simply defended the pawn with rook f2. And after hg4, bishop c8, he doubled the rooks on the d line, and after g6, he wants to put this knight on f6. In order to go to f6, this knight has to reach e4. And in order to reach e4, this knight has to go to c5. And in order to reach c5, the knight has to come to d3. So this is how he planned his journey of this knight. He played knight d3 and then knight c5, followed by knight e4 and knight f6. Now, while I was checking the game, for a moment I thought, okay, what if black castles? And then I was suddenly reminded that it's a Berlin, and in Berlin black gives up his castling rights quite early. So after knight d3, rook a8, knight c5, b4 and knight f6, he had a very commanding position, and he built his advantage with a cool tactic that you will see. After king f8, he first played bishop g5, making it very difficult for black to even consider bishop into f6. And after king g7, he played king g3. Idea is to play pawn to f4 because in this position, if you play f4, there are chances that this pawn might drop. Also, with f4, you are also supporting the bishop. So considering that, king g3 I think makes sense. And then here he played rook d7. And it's not difficult, it's not an easy choice for black, to take this rook, because if you take this rook also, black is doomed to passivity. After king f8, knight e4, he will slowly pick up these pawns, and the rook is on the 7th rank, which can already be considered as a pawn plus. So yeah, it's a very annoying position to be in as black. And after rook d7, Eleanor immediately blundered with bishop d8. And here is a cool chance for you to find that brilliant move. And in this position, Grandmaster Sasikiran played knight to e8. I think this is definitely a brilliant move. The point is that if the king moves to any square, then the d8 bishop is captured for free. And if the knight is captured with rook takes e8, then white eliminates the defender of the f6 square, which is the rook takes bishop. And then let's say he can just take bishop into bishop, and if he takes let's say rook takes bishop, then white is simply an exchange up. And if he takes a rook, since the defender is now eliminated, the bishop comes back to f6 to threaten a forced checkmate on h8. This is unstoppable. And so in this position, after knight e8, bishop e8 and bishop into d8, which is the beauty behind the idea of knight e8, black resigned. So that was a great game by Grandmaster Sasikiran. Now let's take a look at the next game. I have the game between Ronak Sadhwani and Alexei Driv. And Alexei Driv is a strong theoretician, has been playing for many years. In this game, Ronak Sadhwani played the English Catalan or Neo Catalan, whatever you call it, and he got a very simple position to play from the opening. And I really like this cool maneuver, which was also pointed out by his coach Swapnil Dopade on social media, that after knight d5, Ronak played knight e4, and the point is to provoke black to play f7 f5. And once his opponent played f5, Ronak came back with his knight to c3. I think these are concepts that make you a better player. I mean, such concepts you can definitely pick from games like these. And I must add that Ronak has this fine understanding of the position because he has studied these things. So if you also want to play a move like Ronak, like how he did, I think it's a good idea to study some books on the subjects of positional chess and strategy, and also study the games of classical players who excel in this particular topic. Now, after knight c3, bishop f6, he played knight takes d5, and black would actually want this pawn to be on f7, but it's on f5. So white has a small edge. I think there were some errors by Ronak from this point until the critical moment that I'm going to show you, but eventually he succeeded. Here in this position after h5, black had to just go king g8 and keep playing, even be okay with the exchange of queens on d5, but here his opponent after king f8 rook d5 played queen to h4 check, which is a mistake. I found it hard to believe that this was a mistake because it looks so obvious to give a check. But the idea is that this check only helps white to tuck his king to safety, and after this black crumbles. So there's nothing after that. A great win by Ronak, congratulations to him. Now let's take a look at Harika Donovalli's game against Alina Kashlinskaya. I think this win was very important for Harika because it gives her chances today. She's playing against Elizabeth Peds, and that win was very crucial for Harika, who is now on 6 points. In the game, when I was watching it live, I felt that white had a very good position in this Chebanenko slab. But I also misevaluated the position after the queens got exchanged. I thought after queen b6, knight b6, white will be able to push. And with after a few moves, it was clear to me that the advantage is negligible. And this is the moment where games started changing. For example, after king e7, white had to play something like e4 or rook e1, but after king a3, knight b6 and rook a8, this pawn on b6, which looks very dangerous at first sight, is actually a weakness in the long run, and Harika exploited this by applying the principle of two weaknesses. This is the first weakness, so in order to get the second weakness, black has to open the position on the other side, which is very common theme. Again, it's a textbook example on how to do so. After rook c5, king d6, rook c1, it looks like the pawn on b6 can be defended, but what about the open lines? And so Harika played pawn to f5, which I would consider as a good move. And after gf, bishop f5, you see that the weakness of the g line is what makes it very difficult for white. After rook c3, rook a6, this pawn needs defense, so the rook is tied, and then the other rook the black has is now open to attack, so rook g8 happened, and the rook goes to the 7th rank. So this is how Harika won the pawn. In this position, if you go rook d2, then there is rook g1 threatening a mate, and then if you go king a2, eventually black wins the pawn. So after rook d4, rook f2, Harika was winning, but there was one moment where she could have done better. After I think rook a3, she could have slowly waited and played rook b1 and eventually advanced her pawns, keeping all the pawns, keeping the pawn on f5 as well, but she played f4. A sample continuation could be something like this, where you eventually proceed with the pawn march, but she played f4, and for a moment actually white did have chance to hold. For example, after king b7, if rook c1, I think white has good chances to prevent black from marching the pawns, but In this position, Alila Kashlinskaya played a6 and threw away the chance to hold, and then Harika won the game. So the pawn on b6, the pawn on a6 was captured, and then the rest was easy for Harika. Was won her game. I think she has a great chance now in the tournament to finish in the top. Next, we have the game between Vantika Agarwal and Antoneta Stefanova. Here, Vantika played the Catalan with g3, and there was a point in this game where she had a slight edge, or let's say a comfortable position, but after bishop d5 she played knight f4. It was not clear what the knight on f4 was doing, because the knight on d3 is keeping an eye on the vital square on c5, preventing c7 c5. But after knight f4 she lost the thread for a moment, and after a few moves actually black was doing good. And after the exchanges of many pieces, black could not prove anything, and anything substantial, and then after these exchanges the players agreed to a draw. But the good news here is that Vantika Agarwal has secured her maiden IM norm after this draw, and she's also gaining about 36 points, and that shows that she's been doing really well in this event. We wish her the best in her future games. And now let me take you through the results. In the men's section, Hari Krishna drew and Nihal also drew, and I think Seturaman drew, then Gukesh drew, Adiman lost, and Ganguly also lost, and Ronak Sadhwani, as I showed you, he won his game. And Arjun Ergisi drew as well against Kuibakarov Temur. And in the women's section, as I showed you, Harika won, Vantika drew, and then Vaishali drew against Pia Kramling, Divya Deshmukh lost to Mary Arabidze, Padmini Rao drew against Huang Thang Trang. So those are the results, and yeah, I think another 2 rounds to go, and it will be very exciting to watch. I think in the open section, Sasikiran has a great chance, and in the women's section, Harika has a great chance. So don't forget to tune in to chess.com/TV to follow the broadcast. I'll be back with another video soon. Until then, take care and bye bye.